ED.
Yo,
It's our favorite time of the year.
is it?
Off-season talk.
Yeah, don't we love that?
This is the Believe in 49ers podcast on the Believe Podcast Network. He is Super Bowl champion Eric Davis. I'm Rahshaun Haylock. Plenty to get to on this show. We got our red markers out. We're handing out grades for the Niners in this 2021 season. Man, we got a ways to go before we start talking games again. So time to turn the chapter here as we get into our off-season extravaganza, if you will. As always, we want to encourage you to continue to download, subscribe, rate, and review. We're located wherever you find your podcast. If there's a like or a follow button on your particular podcast subscription service, go ahead, hit that like or follow button. Hit us up. Get involved in the conversation, especially these grades. You may not agree with some of them, or maybe you do. Go ahead, hit us up. I'm at @Haylock on Twitter. He is at _Eric Davis _. And on Instagram, I'm at Watch Ray Ray. He is at Eric Davis _____. That's 4 underscores, as in one shy of the number of wins Niners needed to reach the mountaintop in the postseason this year. It still hurts. Anywho. As always, we're brought to you by the fine folks at Bet Online. Look, the big game is finally here, right? Everybody knows what we're talking about. Super Sunday with the last game of the football season. As always, Bet Online has you covered from odds, scores, totals, player performance props, to where the next fired coach is going to land. Bet Online, the #1 spot for all things NFL betting in 2022. Head on over to Bet Online today or use your mobile device to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, to get started. The fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports and play your favorite games. Bet Online, where the game starts. He is Super Bowl champion Eric Davis. I'm Rahshaun Haylock. Time to get into some grades. Before we do that, ED, I'm just going to make one blanket statement and go from there. They need to cancel the Pro Bowl. And that is just. I watched maybe 2 minutes of it, and it was so disrespectful. I was like, "What are we doing?"
The only Pro Bowl I have ever watched in my life was when I was a coach. That's the only. I think what year did I do that? 2016 maybe. Jerry and I were the NFC coaches. That's because I had to watch the game. I didn't even pay attention when I was playing in it, and I've never watched one on TV.
Yeah.
And this is the thing: you can't sort of play football. It's not like the other sports. And someone put a tweet out there, I don't know what player did it, but he said, you got to understand, first of all, most of the guys in the Pro Bowl, well, a majority of the guys in the Pro Bowl have been off for a month.
Yeah.
That's the month that you kind of let your body chill. Because you're like, I'm not trying to work out. You're trying to just rest for most guys and get over the bumps and bruises of the season, and then you want them to go back out and play football. So they're not prepared to play football. They haven't been playing football. And then the other thing is that football hurts tremendously.
Yeah, I don't doubt that.
And you can't kind of play football. You can't have an exhibition football game. So with that being said, I've said for years, I've been saying this for the last 10 years. Make it a skills competition. Everybody loves the day before when the guys are out playing dodgeball and jumping on breaking tables like they're up in Buffalo and all this stuff. You can make it skills competition. Have guys do things they normally don't do, but that are within the realm of football. And I think fans could get into it. It would be more fun. And I also think the players would get into it. That's all. Because nobody wants to play a football game that means nothing. No one. No one. I'm sorry. The pride in the game. Were there times that we play harder? Yes. Why? Because the guy would piss you off. So the fourth quarter we were playing because we had to pay for the trip. So that was it. Your whole family goes over. You got to pay for the trip now because they make you pay for the trip. They pay for your flight. They don't pay for your families. They
Yeah.
pay for your room. They don't pay for your family suites. They pay for you know what I'm saying. They pay for your food, not your families.
Yeah.
So you got to get the trip paid for. And at the time, there was the difference in winning and losing. I mean, it was a big deal to pay for the trip. And the other, so you fourth quarter, you were playing trying to win that game because you wanted to pay for the trip. The other aspect is if somebody just pisses you off. Because there were some AFC guys talking some trash. I'm gonna see him actually tomorrow. Tim Brown. I remember Tim Brown was talking some trash about how there were no good corners in all the best corners were in the AFC and all this stuff and everything. So I remember when we were out there in the huddle, and you know, it came down to one of those situations to where I can run through him on this slant, or I can just play pro bowl football. And guess what?
You chose the former.
I decided I just wanted to let him know that there were corners in the NFC, and I tried to decapitate him on that particular play. So those things would always happen. It's like, okay, if you want to talk trash, we can actually play football if you want to play football. But so that's it. But anyway, we went way too far on that. Way too far.
All right, let's get into it. We're not gonna bury the lead here. Let's get into our grades. These are our season grades.
All right.
Start with the quarterback. Quarterback position.
Starting with the quarterback position, I'm going to give the quarterback position. I'll give them C plus. Reason I'm going, and that's me. I'll go C plus. And I almost want to go plus because the quarterback position did lead this team to the NFC Championship. You look at what happened over there. So you get to the NFC Championship. Yes, there were some key moments in there. There were some mistakes. I can't give you a B because there was nothing. I can't go B. Definitely not A because there was no spectacular play there. But winning is the most important stat. So I can't. There's no way I can go less than a C plus in my perspective. Because they did the things necessary. It wasn't all defense, wasn't all special teams. You did enough necessary under center to give your team an opportunity to be a playoff club.
I'm gonna go B. And I'll go B because, as you mentioned, led this team to a NFC championship game. And then also, you look at the way the first half of the season portrayed, and then you look at that turnaround, right? I think it was tremendous. I think Jimmy was playing some really good football, once you got past week 8 or so. So he may have started a little bit slow, but he finished strong. And so he's able to elevate himself. And by elevating himself, he elevated the program and in order to get them to the championship. So I'll go B there. Let's go with the running back room. Who you got?
Running back room. Wow. Running back room. You know what? I was happy with what Mitchell did and the way he came on. But again, wow, C minus. I got to look at it. That's the best grade I can give that. You couldn't get a consistent performance out of anyone at that position. In games and seasons past, you've had opportunities to look at it where the running back position took over the game. None of that this year. There's promise. We did see some promise at times, so I'll go C minus on that.
C minus on that. I'll go C. Nothing. This is tough. I'll go C plus. I'll go C plus only because Elijah Mitchell had a season we hadn't seen before, but it was in limited time, right? But he set he set a record. He set the rookie record for rushing. You can only imagine what he could have done if he was healthy, right? But we talked about this during the season. He was he's out of the lineup again, so that was a bit concerning, right? But I'll go C plus because of that.
Okay.
That I think that kind of puts it there. But as you mentioned, nothing spectacular. Like, it was good.
Yeah.
Not great. Yeah. Not what we were accustomed to, right?
I'm gonna go C. I'm gonna take mine from a C minus to a C because Elijah Mitchell, there is something. You got the rookie record. You did something that no one else, even in your limited time, has ever done. That's why it's a record. So
Yeah.
that right there, I'll give you a C.
Yeah, and in the amount of games he did too. Like it wasn't like he needed the extra game to do it. He actually did it in less games. All right, cool. Wide receiver.
See, that's a you know what? I'm going to go on. I was actually happy with the wide receiver position. B. I'll give it a B because you had a wide back that he accounts for that. In some aspects, he accounts for the C at the running back position, Debo. You know what I mean? So if I'm looking at what happened there, the importance of that position, talking about the playoffs and the season itself, the wins that they had, and how that position carried things. That's actually, you know what? I got to go B+ on that one. Yeah, because the wide out position carried the offense.
Yeah, so it's funny. I was thinking about this, and I'm like, damn, like I don't think anybody's gonna get an A. But now as I'm thinking about it, I gotta go at least A-, right? I think Debo had a year. He also had a year we hadn't seen before, right? And he carried it, and he created his own position. So I think him as a whole, he lifted that group. And then when you start to consider BA, I mean, slow start, but once Kyle realized he was still on the roster, he decided he ended up having a pretty decent year. And Jennings, I mean, I know it was a smaller sample size, but him coming on late was huge. I thought he ended up being a big catch maker, third down guy, right? And so I think there's a lot to be said about that for a guy who basically was missing last year, right? And so I'll go A-, but really what's tipping the scales there is Debo, because he had one of those. I mean, obviously, a wide receiver is not going to win an MVP, but if you're going to talk about best wide receivers in the league or best seasons from a wide receiver in the league, I know Kupp won the Triple Crown, but I think Debo is right there with him. So I'll go ahead and give it an A-. We got more of the offense to get to, but before that, Ed,
I was just about to say that because we're talking about goals, and I wanted to talk about a new sponsor that we have right now, and ask the people, is something preventing them from achieving their goals? Is there something interfering with their happiness? And if so, we want you guys to check out betterhelp.com/49ers. And now this isn't a crisis line. It's not a self-help line. It's a professional counselor and professional counseling done securely online. And you can send your counselor a message at any time, and you're going to get thoughtful responses from them. It's a BetterHelp is a way for you to assess your own needs, and they try to match you with your own licensed personal therapist in a safe environment, private online environment, and it makes it convenient for you. So we want you guys to start living a happier life. And if you're a listener of this podcast, which you are, and you're checking us out on YouTube right now, you get to go visit our sponsor at betterhelp.com/49ers. And you get to join you know what? I just messed that up, man. People, this is a production meeting. So because you are a listener, you get 10% off from our sponsor. So you go visit betterhelp.com/49ers. And you get that 10% off, and you get to join 1 million people that have already taken charge of their mental health and use this sponsor. So that's BetterHelp, HELP.com/49ers.
Yo, mental health is a real thing, right? Make sure your mentals are in order. We can work.
I know I have to do this with you.
Yeah, right. I mean, every week you're talking me off the ledge or something, right?
Boy, I should get paid.
There's not as much anxiety from me in the off season, but during the season, absolutely. I mean, I had some moments last off season where I was really concerned about the defensive line. We'll get into that in a little bit, but
and you know what? I'm gonna have to talk to them too. Because you saw this copy, right?
Yeah.
Tell the people how confusing this is.
I mean, it was like a jigsaw puzzle.
It still is.
So just to give you guys, take you guys behind the curtain a little bit, we're divvying up the ads here. It was kind of like, I let him take his pick, and when he took his pick, I didn't argue him on it, because I didn't want the smoke. You know what I mean? Like I knew that was something that was a whole nother level.
It's just reading, but it's just knowing what to read.
Yeah, it was a lot there.
And then it's like, don't read this, don't even use that. You guys tell them what you feel about this, and then but go to this part. No, anyway, we
gotta get corporate on that. A little bit more of a concise reading. Yeah, because that was one. Look, I support the company, all about the mental health, but in terms of the actual ad and how it was laid out, I was not gonna fight him on reading that one, because I was like, no, you can have it, bro. All right,
that's it. But betterhelp.com, check it out. Check that sponsor out. Here we go.
So we're going through our grades here. We're going through quarterback, running back, wide receiver. Let's get to tight end. Ed, what do you got for the tight end position?
Tight end. The tight end position was fairly non-existent for the majority of the season. So, I mean, I can give them a C-. I know the player that's there. I know the potential that's there, and that's been A+ potential for the most part, what we're accustomed to seeing. It wasn't remotely there this year for whatever reason, be it injury, be it lack of use. But I mean, that's the best I can do. A C- for that position.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I'll go up a notch. I'll go C, but I mean, there really wasn't much there, right? I mean, you every week we're like, okay, is this going to be the Kittle game? Is that going to be the Kittle game? And but to just look, that's a big part of it, right? But to just look at that, I think would be doing a disservice to that entire group, right? Because obviously they do a lot of things in the run game. They do a lot of things in pass pro. Kittle is one of those rare guys that can impact a game without even touching the football, right? So, there were still some of those moments. And look, if you're a tight end on this team, you're a good blocker, right? At least you're thought to be. And so they were able to impact in other ways, but there was really no significant impact really from the tight end position this season. You go back to 19, right? Like, there how many Kittle moments were there, right, that kind of led this team to the Super Bowl? So we didn't. There really wasn't much of that. So I'm with you there. So you give him a C-, I give him a C. What about the O-line?
O-line. Did the quarterback get hit a lot? Were there major days where, again, the run game took over? No, I mean, the offense is a C across the board. I mean, outside of the wide receiver position, it's not below average because you were a playoff team, so you're better than average. But there is nothing on the offensive side of the ball outside of the wide receiver position that I can say did something where you can look at it and be like, okay, that's the reason why. The offensive line, we know the greatness of Trent Williams. We know the importance of Matt and those guys being there. I can look at positions and say this guy did some good things, but we're talking about as a unit. It was an average unit. It was a C.
Yeah, no, Trent had a great year. Lakin just played in the Pro Bowl that we talked about earlier. But I mean, I'm with you, right? Like there were
some individual good performances.
Yeah, but as a unit, not really, right?
Yeah, I think as a unit, the wide receiver position was the best unit.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know about the O-line. Yeah, I got C. What you got?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go C.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to go C because I mean, individually there were some. I think the pickup of Mac was huge. Trent had one of those Trent years, right?
Play like Trent, yeah.
And so, and then I mean, obviously you got to give Lakin his credit, but I think just as a group, right? I mean, when you look at the running game, you look at the pass game, you look at I mean, you don't want to single out just one game, but you talk about those moments down the stretch where you really needed your O line to kind of like be there to
Hmm.
stand up.
Hmm.
They didn't. In that NFC Championship game, late in that game, and so you don't want to just single out that moment, but there were instances like that, throughout the year where it just wasn't quite there. So yeah, I would go ahead and give it a C, as well. We're getting through our grades. Those are the offensive grades. We'll get to the defensive side of the ball in just a moment, but first, we got another sponsor here we want to talk to you guys about, and that's the fine folks over at NordVPN. Look, you got to protect yourself, right? What's more important than peace of mind? Nothing. And that's what NordVPN is here for, to give you peace of mind while you are online. There's a bunch of predators out there. They're trying to take your information, trying to take your stuff, trying to be you out there. And so with all of the threats that you can face today on the internet, it's more important than ever to be sure that you have the best VPN you can get. NordVPN is the world's best VPN service, offering the fastest connectivity, most servers, and next-gen encryption to make sure that everything you do online stays secure. Plus, you can use NordVPN on all of your computers and devices, no matter the operating system. With NordVPN's unlimited bandwidth, you never have to worry about a slow connection either. And plans start at under $4 a month. So grab your exclusive. That means, like nobody else, right? That means you, right? Exclusive NordVPN deal by going to nordvpn.com/believe or use the code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, to get up to 70% off your NordVPN plan plus one additional month for free. It's also risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guaranteed. So go ahead and visit the fine folks at nordvpn.com. I'm not the most technically savvy guy, but there's a lot of stuff about VPN that has kind of been kind of listening to and reading about, and so it's really a good deal. Can really help you out because people are always trying to spy on you, trying to take stuff, man. You got some predators out there trying to take your information, so make sure you go ahead out there and protect yourself. This is the Believe in 49ers podcast on the Believe Podcast Network. He is Super Bowl champion Eric Davis. I'm Rahshaun Haylock. We just went through the offensive grades. For the quarterback position, ED gave it a C minus. I went B. Running back position, he went C. I went C plus. Wide receiver group, he went B. I went A minus. Tight end, C minus for ED, C for me. And O-line, we both went with a C. Let's turn it over to the defensive side of the ball now. The big guys up front, that D line. Where do you go?
I got an A for them.
You got an A for them.
I got an A for them. It's a very good defensive unit. The defense is the reason. The defense is the reason that they made the playoffs. It's the reason. It was the best unit. The defense was the best of the three units, and the defensive front was the best part of the defense. So if you are the best part of the best part, that took you to that part. That's how I think. I think we can go down. There are some great individual performances. We all know what Bosa did, but along the line, in that rotation, there were players that stepped in, and each and every week, there was a point where we were like, okay, where there were series where you were looking like, okay, they are taking over this game. I am actually going to give them the highest grade of the day.
So you give him an A. I'll go A minus. I think I'll go A. I think obviously Bosa was phenomenal, right? And you look at what he was able to do, coming back from the injury, not even really having an off season to prepare, right? Like he really was just rehabbing the whole time. And he came back and he was just what you said he would be, ED, right? Like he was Bosa, right? You didn't have any concerns about him entering the year, and he ended up being that guy.
Yep.
Armstead, my love-hate relationship with him. He had some moments where he flashed.
Armstead played ball.
He did, and I got to give it to him. But not just him. You look at DJ Jones, and I admitted during the year, I had been sleeping on the guy, and so many people had talked about him and his impact, and I'd really been sleep on this guy, but he proved to be a dude. And obviously, I mean, we're gonna talk free agency and all that stuff down the line, but I mean, you don't want you don't want this guy to leave the building, right? And Arden Key, a very underrated pickup. He went out there. I really liked Arden Key coming out of LSU. He goes to the Raiders, didn't really have much success there. He comes in a system that's more conducive to his skill set, and he balled as well. There's a lot of guys. I mean, we can go all down the list. And no Kinlaw, right? I mean, and they still they still perform well, right? We were all expecting a big year from Kinlaw. But this unit still performed at a high level, so I'm going to go A there as well. Was second level? What do you got? Linebackers.
Second level, I'm going to give them a B. I can give them a B and feel confident about that. We discussed this early on because, Fred's still a very good player. Fred played well this season. The expectations after becoming All-Pro Fred are just higher. So the optics are different, and you have to learn to play with those optics. I think he's going to be fine. He'll be All-Pro Fred next year. I think he's going to be fine because we saw him started to get more comfortable and started to make those plays that you're accustomed to him making and playing at that level. But I mean, we can look at that linebacking core and go across the board. They all had their days and made their plays consistently. So I can just cut it short there and just a B.
Yeah, I agree with you there too. I'll go B as well. I think Fred, we didn't see, at least early on, what we were accustomed to seeing from Fred, right? He eventually was able to turn it around, but the key for me is the play of Alshire. And you remember Greenlaw going down, right? And it was almost like you didn't miss him. Like Alshire was that good. Like he played that well. And of course, Greenlaw comes back. He makes his plays.
Mm-hmm.
He flies off the handle from time to time. You gotta that's just part of the package, I guess, right? I mean, you may get a 15 yarder. You may get a 15 yarder here or there, but really it's about Alshire for me because and I don't know that I was. I was kind of surprised, I guess, to be honest, because not the level of play, but the consistency, right? We talk about all that all the time, right? And so being thrown into that position, but having to do that for an extended period of time,
and not making mistakes that would show why you weren't on the field.
Yeah.
That's the thing about. That's why I say that unit right there. It was solid because it was just that you called it. They were just across the board. They played consistent ball and did what was necessary to be a successful linebacking group. Yeah.
We'll get through the rest of defense and special teams in a moment, but let's get into Masterworks, ED.
Let's talk about Masterworks. I'm going to make this really simple. People, you want to make some money? I'll tell you how. Okay. I figured that'd get your attention. Look at you smiling right there.
Hey, I'm all ears.
Okay, so how about you get yourself into an investment that has outpaced the S&P 500. And it has done that by 164% over the last 25 years. And I'll tell you what I'm talking about now. I'm talking about ART, okay? Okay, we got away. Masterworks, the people over at Masterworks that we're working about. It's this new investment app, and it allows you to invest in blue chip icon artwork, okay? So I'm talking about art from icons like Picasso and Monet and Warhol. We discussed that Warhol that you have in your room, but you don't need millions like this guy spent on his soup can. You don't need millions to get involved in it.
Allegedly.
And over 300,000 people have already signed up for this right now. So what you guys as loyal listeners get is priority access. That's what you get, okay? We're going to give you a unique promo code. So you log on to masterworks.art/believe. That's masterworks.art/believe, BLEAV. And you can sign up right there. Now, what they do want you to do is make certain that you check out all the important disclosures down there at masterworks.io/disclosures. But go there, check it out. And this is a way to do what I said at the very beginning. Make some money. Masterworks.
This is our Believe in 49ers 2021 season postseason grade show. Getting through the defense right now. Let's go to the secondary, the defensive backs. What do you got there?
Defensive backs, D. That's the best I can give that group. The defensive backs were the most inconsistent unit. The defensive backs had untimely, costly penalties throughout the season. Yes, they had some spells where they picked it up, and we can always, if we get into the individual play, that's always, this is not a knock on certain individuals, because the individual play we can always look at and say, this guy had a good year. This guy did these things. We're talking about the unit. Defensive back unit was getting all of these holding and PI calls and all of these type things. And ultimately, the defensive back position dropped the Super Bowl. D.
Ooh, still hurts. I'm gonna go C. I'll go C because I think the first part of the season was abysmal, right? Like if I have to break down the first half of the season, like I'd probably go D minus F, probably, right? But I look at the second half, the latter part of the second half, and then into the playoffs. I think they improved a bit, and so I'll kind of meet. I'll kind of land at a C. Not not a great year by far, but they showed some flashes. You talk about individual play, right? Like Ambry coming from off the milk carton and onto the field and making some plays. You talk about E-Man and just his impact on the defense as a whole, him being back in the lineup.
I can go individual players and raise that. If we're grading player by player, I could raise that grade. But we're discussing.
But as a unit, as a unit, I'll go C. I'll go C as a unit.
And let me ask you this one question though, and you're completely fine with that. I gave you my reasons on my grade. What game at what point would you say the secondary balled out? The secondary killed this week. The secondary shut them down. I'll wait. That's my point.
The game that sticks out to me will be the second Rams game, but that wouldn't be factual because Cup still went off. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know that there was a game, right?
There was. So that's my point. That's why I'm saying it's not even.
You may have to go. Well, no, you can't even go to Detroit because Detroit had that comeback at the end, and
The defense was designed in a lot of situations to do things. Now, injuries had something to do with that, but that's irrelevant. We're grading the unit. But the defense was designed in a lot of situations to not utilizing the secondary in attack mode. It was in preserve mode, defend mode. Yeah. It was never in attack, and that's the situation. So when you start talking about B, the linebacking core was more attack. The defensive front, that's an A group. They were forcing the issue. The secondary was not the type unit to where they were forcing the issue. We're going to man these dudes up, or with our zone, whatever our scheme is, we're going to make you have to do something different with your passing game. I don't know if they did that.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. I don't think they did that, and that's why. That's why I would say they were just average. But I'm not mad at the D at all. Like, believe me, I'm
a little more harsh.
I know you're a little bit more.
I'm more harsh on the secondary.
Yeah. All right. Let's get into special teams.
I'm gonna let you go first on this one because you go ahead.
All right, special teams. I'm gonna go. I mean, the unit was not good. I'll go D.
Say it with your chest.
I'll go, I'll go with a D for special teams. I mean, they just. I mean, look, they were huge in the game in the divisional, right? I mean, that was huge, right? You finally ran into a unit that was just a little less worse than you, right? But aside from that, I mean, like there was nothing to speak of in the return game, whether kick return, punt return, whether pump. I mean, Robbie Gold. I mean, he did his thing. So I mean, you get the kickers were okay in the return game. I mean, just not great at all. Return defense, not particularly well. I think. You put Debo back there because you're trying to figure something out, right? You're like, all right, well, let's just put Debo back there, right? Like he's the wide back. Like let's just get the ball in his hands, right? There was kind of a revolving door in terms of the punt return position. There was not a guy. You didn't fear the special teams unit at all, and so I'll go D.
When you got to go to the kicker and the punter to say these are the best parts of something, that's a lot. When the description of any unit is when you use the term less worse to describe them, says it all, right? That says it all right there. So I mean, I'll give them a D, and they get that because they were a part of a playoff team. That's why you get that. But I mean, there was nothing special about teams this year. There was nothing special about it.
Last one before we wrap this up, coaching.
I said before, I'll say it again. This is an extremely good coaching job on both sides of the ball, dealing with the injuries, dealing with the mindset of what was happening defensively. You look at what D'Amico did over there while they were trying to figure out things on the offensive side early on, and having to put the pieces together as a first-year play caller. He was able to get that done and have a solid unit, a top 10 unit, very good defense. And we discussed that in the offseason. I was like, this is going to be a top 10 unit because they have the players, and those players are still there. You lost some of those players, and even we discussing the secondary and things that were happening that weren't great, for him to still be able to put together a scheme that was winning ball games, making plays when it was necessary, even though you couldn't put certain units in attack mode and having to take certain things out of the playbook. He was able to get that done. I think that was a very good job. So I want to get I want to give him a B+. And I want to do the same thing for Kyle. You figured out on the offensive side of the ball exactly who you wanted to build the offense around. What type things you're going to do with the people and the personnel that could play for you on that date. You finally got that worked out, and you were able to get that worked out to the fashion of double-digit wins. That's a hard thing to do in the NFL. You were able to do that to the point to where you were, the offenses that seem so prolific in this league, and I pointed that out to you, Green Bay, they averaged one more point. The Aaron Rodgers led, juggernaut averaged one more point than the ugly ball that they were playing. So you found a way to manufacture points and win ball games. That's B work to me.
Yeah, I'll go. I can't go A- because of the special teams, but I'll go B+. I think kind of what you said with D'Amico, like to have a top 5 unit with that secondary, I think that speaks volumes. And then Kyle able to right the ship and turn things around. It's frustrating though, because just when you take a look at the tale of 2 seasons in a sense. But to be able to we talked about this, right? To be able to turn it around and to be able to, go in that locker room and say, all right, look, we were trying to do it this way. We're not doing it that way. We're going to do it this way now, and get guys to buy in and still make the playoffs and still end up in the NFC title game. And, 2 plays away from, practicing this week to get ready for, the big game on Sunday. So I'll go B plus from that standpoint. Still super frustrating in a sense because it it seems like it because he made it more difficult than it needed to be, in my opinion. And so you look at wow, like to be able to, and in one sense it's like, okay, to be able to get this team to a 10-win season, yada yada yada, and make the playoffs, NFC championship, this, that, and the other, like that sounds good, right? But then you think about the first half of the season, and if they weren't in flux, like what could this have been, right? I mean, could this have been a 13-win team, a 14-win team, perhaps, like so you almost feel like you didn't, it wasn't maximized.
I just needed 2 more. That's all.
It wasn't maximized. Yeah, I mean, 2 more would have. And look, I mean, and that's the difference, right? Like you put yourself in a position where, I mean, look, it was great. They took us on a ride, phenomenal, right? But at the same time, you put yourself in a position where you had to do it the hard way. Like you had to win 3 road games just to get to the Super Bowl, right? And unfortunately, you're only able to win 2 of them. So, but I'll go B plus. I'll go B plus on that end. So Mike McDaniel too. Got to give him credit too for what he was able to do in the run game. We'll talk about him in the next episode as well. McDaniel leaving the 49ers to become the head coach of the Miami Dolphins. So we want to encourage you to continue to download, subscribe, rate, and review. We're located wherever you find your podcast. If there's a like or follow button on your particular podcast subscription service, go ahead and hit that like or follow button. Hit us up on social media. I'm at Haylock. He is at _ Eric Davis _ and on Instagram I'm at Watch Ray Ray. He is at Eric Davis _ _____. To recap the grades, offense, quarterback, ED went C-. I went B. Running back, C plus for me. B for the wide receivers for ED, A- for me. Tight ends, he went C-. I went C. We agreed on the O line with C. We agreed on the D line with an A, as well as the linebacker core with a B. Defensive backs, he went D. I went C. We agreed on special teams with a D. And then coaching, I gave it a B plus, and you went B, right? Did I get that right?
That's it. That's it. Yeah.
All right. So, for my partner, Super Bowl champion Eric Davis, I'm Rahshaun Haylock. This has been the Believe in 49ers podcast on the Believe Podcast Network. We will see y'all later this week.
Peace.